So now I'm going to lay the top layers on top of the grid. And I'm actually just covering the whole grid. So I'm starting with my horizontal layer. And I can already, as you saw, how much trouble I had laying the wool evenly with this Romney, I can already say. I'm not pleased with it. I guess it would just take practice, and I'm just not used to it. So I had weighed out as much wool as I've already laid in the bottom layer, and my goal is to evenly cover the top to get an even spread of wool, and alternating between the horizontal layering and the vertical laying, filling in the gaps where the wool is too thin, paying particular attention to the edges where it will always end up being thinner. So I have completed laying most of the wool on top of the grid. I've checked for areas that feel thin and filled them in, and I paid attention to my edges and filled those in. So now I'm going to wet this down. Cover it with my plastic, patting it down. Checking, remembering to get the edges of the wool off the plastic. How do you know that you have enough water, not too much water, and enough soap, not too much soap? So as I'm pressing my hands down, if I see any fibers coming up, they're basically too dry. And again, as I said, this Romney is acting differently than the Merino. Alright, so now all the fibers are staying down when I press them. So that indicates that I've got enough water happening on this. And the soap, to test to see if you have enough soap, if you press your hands down and you see some soap bubbles coming, you know you have enough soap. It's easier to see on non-white wool, but that's what you're going to look for. And you're going to look for that each time you open your package to check. Alright, so now I'm covering it back with the plastic. And in this video, I'm also going to show you how I use a sander for certain techniques. There's pros and cons. I have found in my last experimenting when I was making my fingerless gloves that sanding, because I was making them really thick and nice, but still flexible enough to be comfortable when you wear them, that the sander didn't get the wool felted enough. So when I compared it to when I rolled the sleeveless gloves, the felt came out much better felted. And so the sander has good applications and bad, but for this video I wanted to show you how I use a sander and give you a heads up on that. And that anyway. So this is a palm sander. It happens to be a DeWalt, and they're called, and this is a third of a sheet. I have used a quarter sheet. Well, this is a quarter sheet. In the past, I've used a third sheet sander, which is a little bigger, and that's fine too. You cover more surface area. This is about the fourth sander I've been through. They kind of break with all this water, I guess. It is grounded. I am wearing rubber shoes. I'm on a rubber mat. I've never had a problem. I hope I don't get electrocuted. It hasn't happened yet. So anyway, this is a very loud thing. So to protect my ears, I have to use ear protection. So here are my earmuffs. I'm going to sand for a little bit, and then I'm going to check what I have accomplished with the sander. You'll hear how loud it is, maybe. So I've sanded about 2 minutes on each side, and now I'm going to check what I've got going. The first thing I notice is I don't have any soap bubbles rising on the surface, so I'm going to add more soap. It happened to have been moist enough. And you can see that I have a skin already on top of this wool. So I'm gently rubbing my hands to see if any fibers are coming up, and I'm not seeing that. So now I'm pressing harder to see if fibers are coming up, and again, I'm not seeing any. Another soap that I like to use is just olive oil soap. This is Kiss My Face, and I use it in conjunction with the ivory. So if I wanted to get more soap, get it sudsy, then I use the olive oil soap and rub it on. So now I'm going to off my bottom plastic, and I'm going to rub directly onto my bubble wrap. And I'm going to continue doing this until I feel that it's felted enough. It's been 4 minutes since I'm rubbing the wool on the plastic, and right now I'm paying attention to those edges that spread out from the grid. Now, you remember, wool shrinks in the direction that you rub it, so to get all these uneven edges in, I am moving my fingers towards the center to try to even out the edge. So I'm moving my fingers, rubbing in, because I want the wool to move in that direction. I want to make sure it's nice and soapy enough, wet enough. And I'm going to continue doing this until the edges get as firmly felted as the body of the grid. So I've felted it to a point where I'm going to cut it open. Pinching, what's called the tenting test. The fibers are kind of staying down, but not, it's obviously not felted enough, but I want to continue felting it after I open this grid. Remember what our grid looked like. This is a paper representation, and the pink lines are showing you where I'm going to cut to free this grid. So I'm going to use a sharp pair of scissors, and I'm going to cut down the middle of that ½ inch grid line all the way around to free the template.